Summer has ended. Autumn has arrived. Although I've got to say, there are times over the past month when it feels like summer is actually still with us, even though we're into autumn. But the battle to grow our own food and to be self-sufficient continues. So welcome to Self-Sufficient in Suburbia for September 2018. It is Sunday, the 2nd of September 2018. We are chicken sitting for 3 weeks. A friend of ours has some rescue chickens that she got about a week ago, and timing wasn't good though, because they arrived a week before she was due to go on holiday. So we have agreed to... Ooh, sorry, I'm being mugged by my goats here. We have agreed to look after her chickens while she's on holiday, but to make life easier for us, we've just put them in with our own. And you can spot these rescue chickens quite easily because they come from the farms, these battery farms, in not the best state. They tend to be without feathers, and normally they start off quite nervous as well. Right, so amongst the goats here we have there's one of the rescue chickens. 10 in total, so there's another one as well. They've settled in quite easily. Oh. And here I have snow pestering me. Come on. Down you go. No, come on, down you go. One of the jobs I have to do now is to get these 2 sacks of compost from our animal allotment back to the house. I need them back home because we've been given some soft fruit plants. Now, we don't know what the soft fruit is. We don't quite recognise the leaves on them. But we've got 4 plants. And instead of planting them on our fruit allotment, on our far side allotment, we are going to put them into pots and plant them up at home and put the pots on the drive, because it's a better space, better to use that space than just having it standing there and unused. So we've got to get these sacks back home, but as I say, no idea what the soft fruit is, and the people who gave us the plants, they've got no idea either. So back home now, and these are the soft fruit plants and the 4 pots that they're going into. While I was out getting the feed for tomorrow morning for the goats, I've just got back from collecting the feed for tomorrow morning for the goats and found that David has already potted up the soft fruit plants. So, job done. On here. One of the jobs we did this morning was to go to a friend's house in Newcastle and pick up a load of plums that she had growing on her Victoria plum tree. So we paid for these with 4 jars of preserves, and this lot will be made into jam, chutney, pies, crumbles, you name it, we'll be making it. It is Monday the 3rd of September 2018. Back in the kitchen again today, and this time I was making this 4 large jars of green tomato chutney. We were given a load of green tomatoes a few days ago by a friend, and they needed using up, so best way to get them used up, make them into chutney. Sticking with the kitchen theme for the moment, this is what I had for dinner tonight, chicken and mushroom pie. Now, slightly cheated, the mushrooms did come from the supermarket. It's a long time since I've grown mushrooms. I do want to have a go at trying to grow mushrooms again, but at the minute we're not growing any, so cheated on them. But the chicken came from one of the birds that was killed by the foxes around about March time. We lost 4 birds to the foxes, and the foxes just left the carcasses behind, so we obviously weren't going to waste the meat on them, so we've actually used the meat to make chicken and mushroom pie. A few days ago the quail chicks hatched, and we had about 14 hatched, and we found that one of the quail hens in the quail house was broody, so we brought her over, and I'm pleased to report that she has adopted all the babies. Can't see them at the minute because they're all underneath her, but you can see a head popping out there. So she's turned out to be quite a good mum. I was just about to walk out the room and suddenly the mother moved. So the chicks are wandering around, but we have this one little golden chick as well. Just zoom in on that. There we go. Now I don't know what colouring it will end up as when it becomes an adult, but it kind of like stands out from the others. Very attractive little thing. It is Tuesday the 4th of September 2018. Now remember, over the weekend we got a load of plums. We also had some plums from last week. Well, we've already started using them, so we've made 6 large jars today of plum chutney. Meanwhile, in the pan we have a load of plums simmering away. Now these were the plums from last week, and they were rather past their best. So what I'm doing is I'm boiling them up, and we're going to strain these, and then what's left of the pulp will be pressed through a sieve to get a fruit puree from it. So the extracted liquid, the puree, and then chopped apples will all be combined together to make a plum and apple jam, and we'll add in a few more whole plums as well. But that's for tomorrow. It's now just gone 4 o'clock, and as you can see I've now started to put the pulp from the plums through the strainer, and this will just leave to stand overnight. It is Thursday the 6th of September 2018. Slightly earlier start than normal for us because we have in the back, you might just be able to see them, back of the Land Rover there, the 2 billy kids. Now we're taking them to the vet to be castrated because one of them is actually we've already given to a friend of ours, and the other is being kept for slaughter, but bright sun. But because he's sort of maturing a bit, then that can affect the taste of the meat. So if we can get rid of his testicles for a few months, then that will remove the problem in terms of the flavour of the meat. So he'll go for slaughter probably at the end of this year or the start of next year. But as I say, we are on our way to the vets now. We have now arrived at the vets, and we are just waiting for the goats to be allowed in. We are back in the Land Rover with goats still in it. A bit of a wild goose chase because the vet wasn't at the Gosford branch, which we've been sent to this morning. Turns out he's at the Westerhope branch, which was the other one that we were given on as an alternative when I booked the vet a couple of days ago. We're now on our way to Westerhope in the hope that we'll catch up with the vet there. We're back home now, but not for long, because once we got back we then got a phone call from the vet to say the goats had been done, the kids had been done, they are castrated, and therefore we are now going back to Newcastle to pick them up. We've been to Westerhope, just got back to the allotment car park now, and we have the two biddies, minus their previous bits, in the back of the Land Rover. So, this one is back. There's the rest of his family. The other one is hiding away in the shed. It is Friday the 7th of September 2018. Tomorrow is the Bow Show down in County Durham, and we have been going every year for about 7-8 years now, and we always enter the jam making, pie making, bread making competitions and so on. So today we are getting a whole load of our entries ready for the show, and I'm starting by making the pie for the pie competition, obviously, and it's going to be a game pie. Last night I boiled up a pheasant and a duck, and in this pan we have lamb bones, and I think we've got a couple of pig's trotters in there as well, so this is to get the gelatine and stock to go in the pie as well. It's now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we are part way through making all the stuff that we need for tomorrow, so I'll just give you a quick run through. Here in the oven we have 2 pies. Now the top one, they're both game pies, but the top one will be going to the show tomorrow as an exhibit. The one underneath then will be going to the show for our lunch. And then we have on the cooker, these are plums and apples boiling away, and they will be used to make into fruit leathers. And over here we have just finished kneading the dough to make into the bread. We've also got the scone mix ready made up, but that's not immediately available. So yeah, so progress is being made. It's now 20 to 5, and we have made more progress with the prize entries for tomorrow. So I'm just going to take you over to the cooker here. So the game pie, this is the one that's going into the competition. This is just for lunch tomorrow. But they're done. We've got to add a bit of gelatine to it, but otherwise that's done. The bread is done, so this is the loaf that will go in. The scones are ready, and we've entered, for the first time ever, we've actually entered this sort of horticultural competition. So we've got to find 4 apples from one of our apple trees. So we've got the 4 here, so they'll go into this bag individually wrapped. So that's where we are at the moment with those. Meanwhile, in the cake box we've got the cake, obviously, and here is a lemon curd which we've won first prize for in the past. So 20 past 5 now, and the flan is ready to go into the oven. I'm just waiting for it to come up to temperature. It has just gone 8 o'clock, and since the last report we have now baked the flan. It's 20 past 9, and we're at the point where just about everything has come together. 1 or 2 sort of loose ends at the minute. So we've got in the oven the fruit leathers. We've got on the cooker here, these 2 pies are now ready, and we've got the bread. We're starting to pack things up. So in the case there we've got the flan and various bits under there for lunch. So basically things are now coming together. So what we've got to do is get up early tomorrow morning and get ourselves down to the Bow Show. It is Saturday the 8th of September 2018. We spent all day yesterday preparing for it, but here we are at the bow show. Our competition entries are now in place, so these here are the 4 sweets section. So this is the 4 fruit leathers I made last night. That's our lemon curd, and over here we have our raspberry jam, and somewhere on here, yep, there we go, on the other jams, this one here is our strawberry, apple and blackcurrant jam. That's our jar of gooseberry chutney, and then moving on to the eggs, that's our 4 hen eggs and 1 individual egg. That's my blackberry flan, and next to it my game pie. 4 fruit scones and 4 cheese scones. 1 loaf of bread. And 1 chocolate ring cake in the men only section. And 4 apples. First time we've entered the horticultural section. If the category is for supersized cabbage, then I think that one's going to win. The exhibition tent was closed at 9:30 and the judging is now taking place, so we won't get back in until about 12:30.
We had one show at the beginning where it rained the whole show. A lot of them didn't even like it, just kept bringing on more till like 7
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The judging is now finished and the marquee has reopened. So we're inside finding out whether we've won any prizes. And I'm delighted to say that not only have we won first prize in the pie making section, we have also got a best exhibit in the produce section as well. In fact, the best exhibit. So, rather pleased with that. But we got second prize for raspberry jam. And the only other prize we've got is third place in the men's cake making competition. There you go. Using your mobile phone whilst driving a traction engine. Towards the end of the show, when I went to retrieve my exhibits and got my winning rosette, I discovered that winning the best exhibit in the produce section comes with a trophy as well. So a trophy that was actually donated to the show in 1963. Trouble is, I've got to give it back in a year's time. It is Sunday the 9th of September 2018. We've just got back from farm in Sunnyside, in High Spen, where we buy our hay during the winter. Now, we weren't expecting to buy wanting to buy hay so soon this year, because the plan was we were going to produce a lot of hay ourselves. Sadly, I left that job too late. So I certainly didn't make hay when the sun shone, and the sun shone an awful lot this year. By the time I got round to checking whether the hay was, whether the grass was suitable for cutting, it was already so far past its best it just wasn't worth trying to make our own hay. So we have bought in our first stock of hay for the winter. As we can see, we've actually got 6 bales. The first one has already been shipped out down to the allotment. It is a bit disappointing that we didn't actually manage to get our own hay, because we are obviously wanting to spend as little as possible on buying in feed and produce as much of it as we can ourselves. So next year we'll time it better. Anyway, we've still got lots of other things we can be feeding to the goats at the moment, but this is just a little bit of backup because we've had a number of days recently where it's been tipping it down with rain, and we've not been able to get out to pick things like the willow herb and the hawthorn and so on. So we've been feeding the goats, the apples, and we've been trying to build up the supply of apples as fodder over the winter, so we just don't want to use too many of the apples up. So that's the reason why we brought this lot in. So this is our hay store, and as you can see, the goats have already invaded it and are helping themselves. Even the baby has decided to help himself, and he's only just starting to learn to eat. So there it is, all locked up now. Hopefully they won't be able to get in, but we'll just see. They have a habit of being able to break through barriers and so on. Talking of breaking through barriers, yesterday 3 of the goats got through the fence into the corner down there and got themselves stuck. So they certainly broke through the barrier there. The problem was we were down at the Bow Show, 60-70 miles down the road. So we got a phone call from Christine and Stephen and Vicky, who have allotments and outrun the site here, saying there's a problem. So David and my brother Andrew had to drive back from the show to sort out the goats and get them out of the position that they were in. And then David had to come back down to the show, pick us up, and then return home. So an awful lot more mileage was done than we ever anticipated. So today we have completely restructured and changed the fence in that corner of the allotment. So here we have the fence rebuilt with Harris frames, which is now, well, most of the allotment now has Harris frames around it. Now this is of extraordinary height and not easy for goats to get through this. So it's not been paid for by the Mexicans, and it's not on the US-Mexico border, but it could be. It's the sort of thing that Donald Trump would love, except this is for keeping animals in rather than keeping Mexicans out. It is Tuesday the 11th of September 2018. I've been making yet more jam today. This is it, 24 jars of apple and plum. Now, that's the largest single batch of jam I've made in an awful long time. In fact, I can't remember whether I've ever made any more jam than that in one single go, because anything more than that would actually fill more than the two preserving pans that we've got. But the reason why we were actually making that jam is because we took delivery of a lot of plums last week, and they've got to be used up. They don't last long. So I decided, having made plum jam and having made plum chutney, then plum and apple jam would be a good one to make, because we've got lots of apples at the moment and there is still a big apple crop to come in. Now, we don't want to overuse the apples because they're going to be a fodder for our goats through the winter, so we don't particularly want to use them all up at the end of the summer. But we thought they would make a good combination, and I was worried it wasn't quite setting, but yeah, there it goes. It is setting. If it hadn't set, it would have been, well, I suppose we would have told everybody it's a sauce, not a jam. Now this is going to be made into plum jelly, or at least the liquid is there. The pulp will be put through a sieve, and that will be used, the fruit puree will be used to make a plum ketchup. I've had to use up the last of our lemons because they needed using up. So I boiled them all up to make into marmalade. We're halfway through the process now, so this is the liquid that will be boiled up a bit later with a bit of shredded lemon skin added to make lemon marmalade. Some of our plums recently went into a crumble, which we have been eating over the last couple of days. Very nice indeed. Richard, our friend who lives with us, who was quite early this year, had a major operation. He is a vegetarian, so we often have to make slightly separate meals for Richard, or we make just vegetarian meals that all three of us can have. So at the minute, I have a load of beans boiling up, ready to make a bean loaf. The beans in that pan we grew ourselves. This pan we've cheated. These were dried beans that have been sitting in our pantry for years and years, and we are trying to sort through all our cupboards, all our freezers for food that can be used up. Last Friday we made 2 game pies. One was to go as an entry into the pie making competition at the Bow Show, and we won first prize and a trophy for it. And the second pie was to eat ourselves. Now, there's only so much game pie we can eat, so we're going to give half of one of those pies to our friend Mick. And the reason why is because he is a friend who goes shooting, and he often leaves sacks of wood pigeons or ducks or pheasants or whatever hanging on our gate. So for us to swap for jam, so we've decided that he can try out our game pie. So there it is. I'm going to get it wrapped up, and in a few minutes I'm going to pop round to Mix to deliver it. It is Wednesday the 12th of September 2018. As you can see, I'm in the car, actually just leaving Gateshead Civic Centre. So just had a group meeting and waiting for a gap in the traffic to be able to get out. And It's nearly 7 o'clock, and I'm actually going to Wickham because one of the residents there has been in touch. They're in touch every year at around about this time because they have apple and plum trees in their back garden, and they have way over what they need for themselves in terms of fruit. So they discovered a few years ago that I was quite happy to swap for produce. So I take them jams and they give me box loads of plums and apples and so on. So I'm heading there now because he was in touch a few days ago and said he's got loads of plums, not so many apples this year, which is a bit of a pity because we need the apples for fodder for the goats across the winter, but the plums will certainly get used. So I'm heading to Wickham now to do the exchange. So just arrived back home now and went to my friend's house, picked up what they had for us. So it's 3 bags of plums. So this lot will have to be processed over the next day or so because I am going to be away over the weekend. So I really want this done before I head off to London. Meanwhile, back in the kitchen, we've been making more preserves today. So more lemon marmalade, and this one, there's a bit of a plum theme today. This is actually plum jelly. It is Thursday the 13th of September 2018. Now, in the past I have made elderflower champagne, but I've never made red champagne using berries, and today I'm going to have a go at adapting my elderflower champagne recipe to one using elderberries and blackberries instead. So just arrived at the Winnies here, and we've got a fantastic elder bush here, elder tree, that's covered in berries. So the second fruit going in are blackberries, and these, like the elder, grow in huge abundance. Brambles or blackberries will grow just about anywhere, and they will take over land. These berries are always ripening from about mid-August onwards, sometimes earlier. They're going to go into the red champagne as well. Back home now, so we have 1 bucket of elderberries on their stalks, and in this sack we have mainly blackberries but a few elderberries on stalks as well. Right, we're now at the point where all the berries have been mashed up, put through the sieve, pressed through the sieve to get the juice out, and the pulp that's left over has been put in a pan, in the preserving pan, and it is simmering a bit, and it's just to extract the last bit of juice from them. So here we have the boiled pulp, and it is just draining through these 2 sieves. I put it into 2 separate bowls and 2 sieves just to make it a bit quicker, and this should be ready in the morning for the next stage. It is Thursday the 20th of September 2018, and that means we're right at the end of the summer. Wouldn't have thought it though today. It's been a lovely day, and it rather hides the fact that yesterday we had quite a severe gale blowing here, in fact blowing over most of the British Isles, and it's caused the usual storm damage, which basically means trees have been blown over and big branches have been blown off trees. And last night when I went down to Wickham, I saw a tree with a great big branch that had been blown off, a horse chestnut tree. So I thought to myself, aha, I should be back there on Thursday morning to get the branches and take them back to feed to the goats. So that's precisely what I did this morning. Got down there with the Land Rover and filled it up with branches brought them back up here to the Winnies, unloaded them and started to head off for the next batch, and got down to where the tree was, and there was a big council van with a trailer, and the van and the trailer were being filled, or had already been filled, with all the contents, all the that was left of the tree, of the branch, which was pretty enormous. So I said to the guys, do you mind if we have the branches? And he said, yeah, absolutely no problem. Followed us up to Sunnyside and dropped them all off, and they were delighted because actually it saves the council money having to dispose of it all. We were delighted because we've got an enormous supply of food for the next couple of days for the goats, and of course firewood as well. So I've just arrived outside my gate, and this is just part of what we have to feed to the goats. So all in all, everybody won on this one, except for anybody who might have been paid to process and dispose of the this stuff. So great big food supply for the goats, nice, nutritious and sustainable, and we've cut down on waste, and we've saved the council money. What more could you ask for? But this isn't all that we're getting, because the lads on the van said they'll come back with another load of branches later today. Last day of summer it may well be, but the bees are quite busy today. So whether we get a bad winter or not, I'm quite confident that the colonies, the hives, are going into the winter period in a good state. One bit of collateral damage from the storm was that the little shelter that used to be a hen house, but we now use as shelter for the goats, has been blown completely over. But as you can see, the goats rather like lying in it. It is Friday the 21st of September 2018. It's the autumn equinox. As from today, the days will be shorter than the nights. Hurrah! Anyway, I've come down to a friend's house there down in Wickham, and we're in her garden now, and she has a number of apple trees, so she's invited us down to gather up the apples from the ground, and we'll be taking them back for making into preserves and as goat food. A few minutes later, one sack and one large bagful. It is Sunday the 23rd of September 2018. We have discovered another tree that came down in Sunnyside in the storm, so we've just been out to chop the branches off it, and we've started bringing them back for the goats. And it's a rowan, and the goats love rowan. So this is the first batch ready to go in. So hungry goats will soon be well satisfied. So this is the tree here, and as you can see, we've already chopped the branches off, so probably 2 more Land Rover loads to get this lot back to the goats. It is Monday the 24th of September 2018. You may be able to hear in the background the chainsaw going. What's happened is we've returned to that tree that we were chopping up yesterday, and this time we've got the chainsaw to break up the bigger branches and the trunk. The trunk is going back to the Winnie's community garden that we can use there, and the smaller branches are being chopped up so that we can use as firewood. here it all is, now in the back of the Land Rover. So as I said earlier, the trunk will go to the Winnie's Community Garden and the rest of it is firewood. It'll need to sit for a year or so to dry out before we can burn it. It is Tuesday the 25th of September 2018. Having got done my usual feed the animal jobs and letting the animals out, then I'm now moved into the kitchen because we have a huge pile of plums that urgently need to be used up. So we're making the whole lot of them into puree. This is the last batch to go into the pans for boiling up, and they will be turned into a pulp. The pulp will then be strained, and then we'll press the pulp through a sieve to get this puree. Byproducts of this process is this. It's not a bottle of wine, it's actually a plum juice, and that was strained off from the plum pulp, say that quickly, and we'll put this in the fridge and we'll drink that gradually over the next few days. Probably add a little bit of our honey to it as well. It's the afternoon now, and I've just got to the allotment and found that somebody has very kindly left a large pile of hawthorn branches outside the gate, so we brought them in, and as we were putting them in, more arrived, and there are still yet more to come, which means that I don't have to go and chop any branches off the hedges today, which is great news. It's also getting a bit breezy now. It is Thursday the 27th of September 2018. Now, a couple of weeks ago I started the process of making some red champagne using blackberries and elderberries, and the first part of the process was to get it in a bucket and get it fermenting. Well, today the next part of the process was done, which was to get it all bottled up. So we've got 3 bottles that we've made. I slightly miscalculated on the amount of bottles that we needed. I thought we would be lucky to fill 3 bottles. We actually had nearly a litre of the fermenting juice left over after we filled the 3 bottles. So instead of making more red champagne, I decided to make some fruit liqueurs instead. And this is just the same liquid that goes into making the champagne, but it's gone into a Kilner jar instead, and it's in there with a whole load of vodka and sugar. So it'll be a blackberry and elderberry fruit liqueur, or in this case a fruit vodka. So that'll take about a month before we can start drinking that. Normally it takes a lot longer to make the fruit liqueurs, about 3 months before you start drinking them, but it was just the pure liquid went into that one. So we'll give it a month and then we'll start drinking it. This we'll be able to start drinking possibly in a week or so's time, but it ferments in the bottle. Last week, after the storm, the council dropped off a couple of wagon loads of branches for us, and amongst them were these rather thick logs and so on, which are all going to be used for firewood, just need to be chopped up. Now today we have the job of moving them from the car park. So they're outside the allotment now. Not everything went to plan, because we were going to chop them up in the car park before we moved. So we brought over the chainsaw, and we couldn't get the chainsaw to work properly. So we've simply stacked them up outside the gate here. Don't really want that to be want them to be like that for long. So we want to get them chopped up and put into store, because they'll be used next year, towards the end of next year. So they've had time to dry out, but it's rather got in the way of things. So it's going to have to be a job for tomorrow, and hopefully the chainsaw is working. It is Friday the 28th of September 2018. Yesterday we were aiming to have a huge pile of logs chopped up, ready to put into our wood store for burning towards the end of next year. and then we couldn't get the chainsaw to work. So today, our friend Steve has managed to get it working. He knows how to use these things. We're amateurs when it comes to that. So I have this afternoon made a start on chopping this great pile of logs. So part way through this, I've stopped for the moment because I'm letting the chainsaw cool down, and as you can see, here are some of the chopped logs, and we've got others over here. There's the chainsaw. But another reason for stopping is to get some feed for the goats and chickens. As you can see, they are happily waiting for dinner to be served. And today, instead of getting them branches, I'm getting them grass and leaves. The reason we're going for grass and leaves is, first of all, it's quicker to collect them in than having to go and chop all the branches off the trees. And secondly, after the heat wave finished at the end of July and the rains came, the grass and dock and nettle and so on started growing again. So there's lots of fresh greenery there. So I thought it'd actually make quite a pleasant change for them to have this as well. Chickens rather like this stuff as well, so they get fed as well as the goats. So Perky comes along, and then Spot. I've used some of the bigger logs to create a wood pile for the goats to climb on. As you can see, Perky is already on there, along with the baby. And the idea is that they go climbing on that, rather than go climbing or jumping onto the hen houses, which they are gradually demolishing. So that's it for September 2018. Join us next month when we will be even further into autumn.